There you
Okay. Welcome to another episode of Building Brilliance Book Club. I'm your host, Brian Wilson. We're doing something a little bit different. This is June. June's Father's Day. Father's Day is a big thing to me. You know, it means a lot to me. And I have been interviewing and talking to different men about fatherhood, what it means to them, the history of Father's Day. I wrote an article for my website about Father's Day, and I've been really trying to promote Father's Day. We did a contest on one of my websites about Father's Day. Love my neighbors. So right now I'm interviewing my stepson. His name is Colby Mills King, and I wanted to introduce him, ask him a few questions about Father's Day. Colby, take a minute to introduce yourself to the
go.
audience.
Yeah. So my name is Kobe Mills King. 28 years old, born and raised in South Jersey. Love the neighbors too.
Love the neighbors.
So I grew up pretty much in this area, bounced back and forth between Jersey and Philly most of my life. Experienced a lot, met a lot of great people during that time. I ended up going to school in South Jersey at Winslow Township High School, and was blessed enough to go to Drexel University and earn my degree in my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. So now I work as an application developer for Accenture, working from home. So yeah, I'm really excited for the interview.
Excellent. So we're going to jump right into this. So my first question for you, Colby, is what does Father's Day mean to you personally, and how has your perspective evolved over time?
Yeah, so Father's Day for me, when I hear that, I immediately think of my own dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a dad myself, but immediately I think outwardly.
Mm-hmm.
I think of you, I think of my dad, I think of all the, the men that have inspired me over my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about appreciating them, making sure that they're seen and valued. I just want them to know that they're, that they mean something,
Mm-hmm.
that they had, a significant role in my life. Um, I get reminded of Father's Day every day when I look at my son. And, for me, it's not about, I feel unconditional love from him.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think about fathers, it's more the role that I play as a dad, rather than like expecting any gifts or anything like that. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
okay, just a reminder of, the day my life changed and, the role I play for the rest of my life. So immediately I'm thinking about, how I can appreciate the fathers in my life and what they mean to me. I'm thinking outwardly more than inwardly in
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
I guess I expected that. I expect, anything, or I'm thinking about what I could do for others almost immediately
That's
as a dad
interesting.
myself. Yeah.
That's good because the origin of Father's Day for us, Pop was a Rolling Stone.
Right.
That was the
Yeah.
origins of Father's Day. We got that one song, so we're trying to change the narrative and the conversation and the meaning behind Father's Day. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate your input, and I appreciate you doing this for me, for Building Brilliance for my audience. So my next question for you is, how do you navigate the challenging stereotypes about Black fatherhood? I mean, there's always this, looming stereotype about absent fathers and
Right.
fathers being incarcerated, and they having a bunch of kids all over the place. So both within your family and in society at large, how do you challenge those stereotypes?
Yeah. When I was a kid, one thing I always would do, I learned a lot from my parents. I learned a lot from you and just other father figures in my life. I would always try to, take away like the good pieces from what I learned and what I experienced, and didn't want to, continue any bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and I remember times as a kid where I didn't feel seen or didn't feel heard,
Mm-hmm.
as a man. So I wanted to be a type of father that was present. My son, I only have, one child, so it's
Mm-hmm.
like constantly showing up,
Mm-hmm.
even when I'm tired, just still giving, what I have. So in terms of like breaking the narrative, I think I just, be myself.
Right.
I'm very family driven, person.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like family is everything. I always show up. There's often times where I'm exhausted and, might not have the energy to, but, I still, find a way,
Right.
and, I'm thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the most important things for a dad is to be there.
Yeah.
I'm going to every karate practice, every soccer practice, every teacher conference, anything, just to show him, that he matters and that he means something. Because it's important to have that figure.
Yeah.
And not only have that figure, but have that support.
Yeah.
In the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
When it talks about a lot of Black fathers that are incarcerated, I communicate that to my son and
Mm-hmm.
also other fathers, and I say if I have certain actions, I wouldn't be here
Right.
if I act a certain way. So it's like leading by example.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
teaching my son, what it means to be accountable, what it means to be consistent, what it means to show up for your family. So
Right.
every day, not only am I instilling these things to him, I'm also showing that example, and hope to spread that light of the joy of being a father as well to other fathers and also to him. And I think a lot of people come to me and they talk about how beautiful my father relationship is with my son,
Right.
and they love how I am with him. I'm not shy about him. I always have him by my side. I can sit down and have conversations with him, man to man. He's a young man, but it's important to be there, and lead by example, not just say it.
Not just say it. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Being present is huge. I mean, even sharing that with my own daughter, I missed one doctor's appointment when she was growing up, and I'm still mad about that. Like, where the heck was I?
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand that. Always wanting to be present, be on the scene. You know what I mean? Make sure she knows, that you're there and giving her that support. So that's good.
To add on to that, one thing I think is important to show like the joy and beauty of fatherhood. I'm not shy about it at all. Like when I show up to events, I'm not just sitting in the background in the corner. I'm cheering on my son. I'm showing up. I'm talking to his teachers. I'm engaging with his friends' parents, and even like just online. Like I'm happy to be a dad.
Right.
So I'm constantly showing people like, yeah, this is what it could look like. This is what happiness looks like. This is what a healthy relationship looks like. So it's like, people can see that.
Right.
You have that visibility. I'm not shy about that.
That's very good. Yeah. That's very good in showing up and being present, especially for the kids that are watching that don't have a dad present. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, they look at you like, wow. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a miss out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a real miss out. So seeing that and being present is all the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And even to add on that too, Brian, I have a lot of friends that, want to be a dad one day, or some that, might have a kid on the way and they'll ask me for advice, or like, they just get excited. We can resonate on that type of topic.
Right. That's a whole different level. You can learn from other dads. Yeah, you can.
Like, a lot of conversation that we had, or, just last just sharing experiences like with our kids, I think it helps as well. And it gets to the community aspect.
Right.
Because fatherhood is not just, one person. It is a lot of people involved in it.
That it takes a village is a real statement, it's a real statement, because I mean, just like, you learn from me, I learn from you, and I mean, and I'm still, learning,
right.
You know what I mean? It's a new challenge every day. What lessons or values did you learn from your own father or father figure, and how do you hope to pass those on to the next generation?
Yeah, I think with my dad, he's somebody who always puts family first, no matter what. I watched him like break his back for his mom, his sister, just all different aspects of family and friends growing up, and I always had that reciprocated. So it's constantly always trying to do the right thing, no matter what. Not necessarily expecting that in return, but doing it that's because you believe that's the right way to be. I watched him put family first. I watched family and friends kind of turn their back on him when he didn't really do anything, but still get up the next day and do what you have to do.
Yeah.
So taught me a lot about like resilience, being there for family. Not doing things because you're expecting a result. So I learned a lot about how to love unconditionally, how to be there, even though people might not be there for you. I watched, him show up and go all out of his way for other people's birthdays or something in the house, stop working. And for his birthday, he might not even get a text message from the same people.
Oh, wow.
And it's sad, but, it tells you that sometimes, as a man, you can't always expect people to check in on you. Sometimes there's going to be, some harder days where you got to lock in and, do what needs to be done regardless of how it might be perceived or without a result.
That's real.
Yeah, at the same time, when I talk about the importance of showing up, like my dad was the same way for me. Like never really missed a practice. He would always drive me to every event.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah, wake up super early in the morning, but still be there after school to pick me up. So it's like,
okay.
still valuing your family,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how you feel.
Mm.
Showing, being there, being present. Yeah, I learned a lot from him. Just being, present and tapping into that extra gear.
That
My
that
Yeah,
kick, man, that kick make a big difference, you know.
yeah. I feel like a lot of fathers are the anchors of a family.
Yeah.
So they keep people together. They
Mm-hmm.
keep things grounded. They keep things, safe, protected, provided for. Without that, you kind of lose that stability. You know,
You
you,
can,
you can lose that
yeah, you
foundation
can lose that
in the
footing.
family. So
Mm-hmm.
that too is, even on the hard days, you could be there and be your best. Give everything you got.
Mm-hmm.
My dad used to always tell me, I used to, as a kid, I wanted to be just like my dad. Like, most kids, I
Right.
want to be just like
Right.
him. And he was always like, I want you to be better than me.
Mm-hmm.
I want your life to be easier than mine that I had growing up, or
Yeah.
I want you to be more successful.
Right.
So that drive of always like pushing yourself,
Mm-hmm.
I learned that from him, and that kind of instilled some core values in myself
Yeah.
that I also, put in my son. So
Mm.
yeah, so many lessons, man.
Oh man, that's
These
that's
are,
beautiful.
yeah,
I'm really glad you opted to do this with me. I
yeah.
really am, because this is great. Tell me this: what unique joys and challenges have you experienced as a Black father, and how do you find support in your community in your role?
Yeah. Yeah, so the thing about being a Black father is, raising a young Black man. And it's an interesting world that we live in.
Yeah,
It's a lot to
challenging.
navigate. So it's like, it's one thing to raise a boy. It's one thing to raise a Black man.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have to teach him all the different aspects of just being a human, being a good
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
um you know and I also have to teach him, what it means to be Black,
Mm-hmm.
and how to carry himself. I always teach my son, I treat him like the king. My,
Mm-hmm.
my last name just happens to be King, and that's how we carry ourselves. Teach him to always be yourself regardless of who's around or
Mm-hmm.
what space you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get him to that point where nothing can impenetrate who he's supposed to be and who he wants to be.
Okay.
Not letting people or things take him out of his character. I think as a Black man, it's essentially important
Mm-hmm.
because we're always labeled certain ways. We're always told
Yeah.
how to feel or how not to feel,
Right.
or you have this image when you look online or on
Right.
TV. It's
Mm-hmm.
always this persona. So navigating all of these to being yourself. Staying true to your morals.
Mm-hmm.
Putting family first, moving out of love and kindness, but also discipline, having confidence in yourself,
Right.
being, focused and locked in. So yeah, it can be challenging. I
It can
feel
be
like
challenging.
as a dad, there's only so much I can do. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not with him 24/7.
Right.
There's a large period of his life where he's in the world and he's
Mm-hmm.
around all these different influences. So the best thing I try to do for him is instill that foundation. I give him an open space where we can talk to each other. There's nothing that we can't talk about. I make that very
Good.
clear.
Good.
I
Good.
want him to know that it's okay to feel in
Mm-hmm.
this world. It's okay to express yourself. I teach him healthy ways to do that,
Mm-hmm.
but also healthy ways to communicate about it.
Right.
I didn't always feel like I could do that as a Black man growing up. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how to talk about my emotions like that.
Right.
I had to learn that as an adult, how to
You have to
navigate
learn
that
those
in the hard
things.
way.
Right.
I wish I had a platform like, okay, how do you really feel about this?
Right.
I'm often told to stay in a child's place, or this.
Yeah.
You're just in the background, not really understanding things.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very important as a Black man and a Black father is to teach the youth that how to understand things,
Mm-hmm.
helping them understand things. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to step aside and let's have a conversation one-on-one. What's on your mind?
Right.
What's going on? Being able to, be sensitive enough to read. Okay, if something wrong,
Mm-hmm.
you could see if there's something off about your son or your
Right.
child. If something's bothering them, you can see
Mm-hmm.
it in their expressions if you pay attention. So that's important, like being attentive, being open to that conversation. I think also being humble enough to, I have accountability and I also can acknowledge when I'm wrong.
Mm.
As a father, like even as a parent, you're not always going to be perfect.
Right.
You learn as you are a parent.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things I learned from my son, or different styles parenting styles I can learn.
Mm-hmm.
But I apologize to him if I'm wrong, or if I hurt his feelings, or
Mm.
if I overstepped, or I didn't make him feel heard.
Showing accountability.
And
Right.
then not only showing accountability, but next time applying that.
Mm-hmm.
Leading by that example.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not easy, being a black man in this world.
Right.
But I feel like with community, being able to express yourself, I feel like that's a big thing that a lot of us can't do, and that's why I think we get some of the notion that we do get, because we don't really have that space as much as we probably should.
Yeah.
To just express ourselves or just be ourselves.
Or just be ourselves. Yeah,
so
that's
I try to instill that in him very young, very confident kid.
Yeah.
Caleb's he's very emotional. He can be sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
But I always give him the space to use his voice.
Yeah.
To be himself. Whatever he's interested in or whatever's on his mind, like we could talk about it. So it's being comfortable in your own skin, where he gets to this mindset where there's nothing that he can't do.
That's great.
Every day.
Man, that's beautiful to hear that, man. I can hear, I see the growth in him. I see the development. Yeah. Even the way he communicates with me. Yeah. I find it hilarious, that he checks on me, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, shoot, you checking on your papa. Yeah. I feel good. I got one question for you, and I got a follow-up question after this one.
Okay.
How do you hope to shape the narrative around Black fatherhood for your children and for the broader community?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is I want to show people, one, how important it is to play this role. And it's not an easy role, but it's such a rewarding one. Like I always tell people, fatherhood is my favorite. It's the absolute thing I love more than anything else is being a dad. There's nothing more that I love than that. Being able to shape a life, be able to have inspiration over the next generation and his generation. All I want to do is, spread love and build a better life for my son, better than what I had, and keep paying that forward. I always say, like, kind deeds can be contagious.
Yeah.
Building a man that's loving and generous and compassionate and brilliant and bright can have such an impact on a future generation. Eventually, he's going to have kids,
right?
Have eventually grandkids. So. You're extending.
Slow down, Speedy.
I know. You're extending a lineage of men and extending a lineage of people that are eventually going to have families and impact the world. So I think it could be a chain effect. I think when you have great positive fathers in the community, they breed confident, strong children.
Positive, strong children.
So you can continue that chain.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important. Trying to improve on yourself, eliminating bad habits, building a stronger family unit, can have such a long-lasting effect on all of our communities. I think we need more leadership. I think we need more confident men. I think we need more men comfortable being themselves and expressing themselves. These going to be future, husbands and boyfriends and leaders in our community.
Gauntlet, yes.
So I think it starts with just making good decisions and instilling good habits. At an early age, and allowing these children to be themselves.
Yeah.
And showing them an example what healthy fatherhood, what healthy parenting looks like. And breaking these trends that a lot of us were stuck on in the past and what we're going through. I don't think the world is easy on us, but together I think we can be a lot more stronger.
I think we can be a lot more stronger, definitely.
So I have hope for the future because I met a lot of good fathers. And, there are a lot more Black fathers present than I think is being alluded to.
Yeah.
We're very much present.
We're very much present. We just hide in the background because people don't talk to us like this on one-on-one.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So, it's important to, keep spreading what we learn as we're learning ourselves.
Right.
I always say I want to see others lift as I rise as well. So as I learn things throughout my parenting experience and talking to other parents about things. Okay, we tried this, but this really worked for me. Or, different lessons that I could share.
Right.
Or even just adversity, how we overcome that. I think that's another way to spread that reach, and it could trickle down, to the kids and eventually their kids down the line. But, the goal is, we can build up our families. That's our household. Building up our families, you can expand that network even farther. Across friends or acquaintances or even, your kids' friends. And, I think people kind of underestimate how significant a small, conversation can change somebody's life.
Right.
You never know how much people can relate to you. A lot of us are going through a lot of similar struggles.
Yes.
And that's why I think, that togetherness really brings people.
That bond brings them close.
Yeah, I do.
I got one last question for you before we end this segment. How are you holding up on your mental?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in a really great spot mentally, and I'm really blessed to be where I'm at. I completely changed my approach to how I live life, down to like my morning routine. You know,
Mm-hmm.
how I carry myself every day. I pray a lot,
Mm.
multiple times a day.
Good.
Sometimes just randomly.
Well,
You
yeah.
know, a lot of what I pray
Gotta talk
for,
to
it's
God.
it's just gratitude.
Yeah.
It's thankfulness to be where I'm at, or have another opportunity for another day,
Mm-hmm.
or just having my health, having my spirit, having my energy to get up and do what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I start my morning with prayers. And
Nice.
I started, journaling more, and I do my affirmations in the morning.
Nice. Yeah.
So what I call my affirmations, like giving the world my superpowers. I tell everybody who I am
Right.
before anybody can tell me who I am.
Who you not?
Yeah, who I'm not. Exactly. So every single day I'm telling myself all these different characteristics, who I am, who I want to be, who I want to continue being. So I call that waking my spirit up. There's
Right.
nothing anyone can do, say, or any adversity is going to knock me off from being who I am. Because every
Mm-hmm.
day, you are. I, even started meditating, especially when like life can get overwhelming. I just feel
Yeah.
like things are moving really fast.
Yeah.
Just slowing down.
Yeah.
I spend a lot more time intentionally outside. One of the things I want to do this year was connect more with nature. I
Okay.
think sometimes we need to separate away from things and just get fresh air. Get some sunlight, be by
Mm-hmm.
water, allow yourself time to just process things. I think very, very intentionally before I speak. I think about the effect that, my words or actions can have. My
Mm-hmm.
word is all I have,
Mm.
so I make sure my actions resonate that. And I always try to lead by example,
Mm.
so I feel like I I took some time to be alone, got comfortable being by myself,
Right.
being aware of who I am, and also aware of like the world around me.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding how I can make life work for me, what
Mm-hmm.
works for me, what doesn't work for me. And, intentionally taking that time to building my routine, building my habits, setting goals for myself. Like going
Mm-hmm.
to the gym is a wonderful for your mental health. I
Yes.
can second that 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Writing down my journaling frequently makes me feel like I'm heard. I don't feel like this I'm not being heard.
Right.
I'm
Right.
being able to write down all my thoughts and process them in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm grateful where I am in my mental health. I feel really healthy. I'm sleeping well, I'm eating better.
Good.
I'm in my best physical shape of my life, and I'm also like just being intentional with everything I do.
Mm.
And I'm able to have a lot of conversations with other people as well, just to try to help them unlock the best version of
Right.
themselves.
Right.
I recognize it's a journey.
It is.
I don't stress over things I can't control.
Mm-hmm.
I take time to process my feelings and my thoughts. Um, and I recognize like, when I do need a ground, which remind myself of who I am, like how to do that. For me, it's being around family.
Yeah.
When I feel overwhelmed, like there's nothing more recharging than being around
Oh.
people that love you and care
Yes.
for you.
Yeah. And
And
you can get a good meal.
yeah, exactly, exactly. For me, like
That
sometimes,
always helps.
right? Food is the way to the soul, man. And sometimes, like basketball is like that for me as well.
Mm.
It can be therapy in a way, just like releasing everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta let stuff go and relock in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm grateful where I'm at right now, and I'm excited to continue to learn
Mm-hmm.
every day. I'm excited to keep growing,
Mm-hmm.
and just keep being honest with myself. And looking myself in the mirror and loving who you are.
That's a huge one right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being able to look yourself in the mirror every day.
Yeah,
Every
day.
That was part of a book that we read some time ago. But that's very interesting that you added that piece in there. This is really good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing this for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just to sit down and talk and share this, because I want to share this with my audience. You know what I mean? And then put it out there for them, because it's a conversation that continues. It's not a one shot deal. Even though Father's Day is just one day, this is an ongoing conversation. I've met a lot of different men. We've had a lot of different conversations about men's health. The psychology of Black men. That's really along the lines of the series that I've been working on. And this Building Brilliance is a part of it. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Building Brilliance Book Club. I'm your host, Brian Wilson. Stay tuned. We have some other great books coming up that are coming out of the woodworks. We'll see you on the next. Take it easy.
Take care, y'all.